Forgiving what you cannot forget. Ooh, is this going to be a juicy topic? So welcome or welcome back. It's your favorite mental health specialist, aka your favorite motivational teacher and naturopathic physician, Ty Guidance, and that's what we're going to talk about. Disclaimer, 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 trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. When it comes to forgiving yourself and people, places, and things that you cannot forget, you have to realize that it is a choice. Not just that, when you choose to watch these videos, you are 100% committed. So grab your pen, your paper, your notes, your popcorn, and get comfortable, because when it comes to healing, there's no turning back. So if you watch these videos all the way to the end, make sure you like it, make sure you give it a big thumbs up, make sure you comment down below, and turn your post notifications, you are subscribed. With that being said, the reason why it's so important to understand that forgiveness is a choice is because you're the only person who is going to deal with the bitterness and the anger and the frustration from the trauma that you've experienced. Trigger warning. Yes, this is how we're getting straight into this video. This is how we're starting off 2025. You've been warned. You have to realize that in order for you to make peace with yourself and with certain people, places, and things, you have to realize how it affected you. You cannot forgive certain people and places and things that traumatize you if you don't realize how it made you feel. So the first thing you have to do in order for you to forgive certain people, places, and things and not forget is to internalize what has happened to you. When it comes to your healing journey, you're going to go through fluctuations of emotions. Why? Because you're a human. Some days you may be sad. Some days you may be happy. Some days you may be positive. Some days you may be negative. The goal is to either have balance or to stay on one side. And as your favorite mental health specialist and naturopathic physician and doing this for 28 years, I've decided 100% to be positive. A lot of people think, oh, that's negative. It's toxic positivity. There's no such thing as toxic positivity. I'm so sick of seeing it. You're either toxic or you're positive. You can't be both. You can have days where you're mad. You can have days when you're in your feelings because, like I said, you're a human being. But it's like, make a decision. Like, in order for us to forgive what has happened to us, we have to realize how it affected us. So when you're touched on inappropriately at an early age, when you're being essayed, when you're being abused, how does this make you feel? You have to communicate what has happened to you. You cannot suppress how you feel. In order for you to forgive what has happened to you, you have to talk about it. You should not be embarrassed or ashamed to talk about certain trials and tribulations, because everybody underneath this sun is going through things and has gone through things. Anybody who's genuinely has gone through certain things is not going to make you feel embarrassed. Anybody who's been touched on inappropriately, that's not funny. It's not cute. It's not appropriate. Only the psychopaths and the people who did wrong are going to justify it. You need to know that in order for you to forgive yourself, you have to create a sense of safety. If you don't have a therapist, if you don't have a counselor, if you're not booking a service in a session with me, your favorite mental health specialist, naturopathic physician, if you're not seeking some type of assistance, you have to be the safe place for yourself, because that's what nobody's going to tell you. If you don't have a community, if you don't have to have support, if you don't believe in God, ancestors, in the universe, you have to believe in something. Like, you have to know that just because you go through things doesn't mean that you have to stay there, and that it's always your fault. A lot of times when people are groomed inappropriately, they're groomed at an early age, and a lot of times we don't know what's going on. Some of us do, some of us don't, because that's not been taught to us and installed in us. So you have to realize a lot of times when people take advantage of you, it's because you're naive. It's because you don't have boundaries. It's because you're aware, or just because you're a malicious person. You have to know that just because everything external has happened to you, that you don't have to become a victim to it. Like, you are a victim in the moment, but you don't have to justify why certain people did what they did. This is why it's really important to internalize how it affected you and to be vocal about it and to communicate. So therefore, once you're able to communicate, you can then allow yourself to grieve. You cannot forgive yourself or people and places and things that hurt you and abuse you if you don't allow yourself to grieve. So if you were, like I said, being touched on inappropriately at an early age, or whatever trials and tribulations that you went through, you're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to feel hurt. You're allowed to feel a void. You're allowed to feel broken. But what you're not allowed to feel is a sense of shame and a guilt, because if you said no and people still did it, or you try to tell people and they didn't believe in you and you didn't have anybody to support you, it's not fair for you to call yourself a whore or a slut, or to shame yourself or say these negative things when that's not who you were. Like, a lot of times from people being groomed early causes hypersexuality, causes people to touch on people in like families and communities, and it's not okay. And yeah, that's what we're here to talk about: mental health, real things that people really go through. And speaking from experience, it's a time and a place, and I'm not afraid to use this platform. So that's the first couple of things you have to be aware of. once you're able to realize how certain situations affect you, once you are able to grieve, you then now have to decide, how do you want to handle the situation moving forward? You have to realize that you do have to move forward. And in order for you to move forward from those type of traumatic situations, I advise that as you're learning to grieve, that you take your time. Grieving is not a one size fit all. It could take days, it could take months, it could take weeks, it could take years. There is no specific timeline when it comes to life. So always take what resonates and leave the rest. Like, there's no right or wrong way to do everything, because everybody's life is created, destined for them. So you have to realize what may work for you may not work for me, and vice versa. So don't force the vibes. Like, when it comes to you forgiving yourself from traumatic situations that you can't forget, you have to choose to. You have to make a decision that just because you're choosing to forgive yourself and the people and the places and the things that hurt and harm you doesn't mean that, one, you're going to become like them, which could be a separate video, and two, that you're going to continue to make certain choices, and three, continue to beat yourself up. The purpose of forgiveness is to let it go. And speaking from experience, the reason why I'm able to let go of a lot of things is because I know in this life we're not supposed to be attached to anything. And that's a lot of people's problem. A lot of people are attached to people. A lot of people are attached to places. A lot of people are attached to materials. A lot of people have attachment issues. And when you attach to something too much, you start to suffocate it. It starts to become overwhelming. It starts to become chaotic. And anything that is too much starts to eventually become negative if there's not balance, if there's not moderation. I don't believe in holding grudges. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not going to forgive these people because da-da-da-da-da. You're allowing them to hold anger in your heart. These videos are for the mature audience. Everyone's not mature. I'm not telling you guys to do anything that doesn't make sense to you, but if you resonate with these videos and you're liking these videos, you're commenting below, and you're turning on your post notifications, you're subscribed, we're moving forward. I'm not holding on to anything. Trust and believe. I have a violent story. I've been through a lot of trials and tribulations, but because I've been through so much things and adversity in my life, there's no way in AT double hockey sticks I'm going to allow dusties and crusties who were dirty and not good people to affect me. Because why should you allow what other people did to you affect you? That's not who you are. And that's the whole purpose of the video, is to have principle, morality, and the essence, like the substance, the principle. Just because certain people did certain things to us does not mean that we have to continue to have our head down or that we can't move forward. F those people. Like, you have to learn that when you're forgiving yourself and those people, places, and things, you don't have to forget what has happened to you, but you're not going to allow it. The whole purpose of us going through lessons in life is to learn from it. It's to learn from it. If you weren't able to communicate, if you didn't have trust, if you don't have the support, if you didn't have the discernment, if you didn't have the wisdom, if you don't know what you know now, why and how is it fair for you to sit here and suffer and hold on to things that were out of your control? Once again, these attachment issues, we have to work on that. Like, you have to realize that forgiveness is for you. Just because you forgive people does not mean that you rekindle relationships, does not mean that you're naive. Like, there's a misconception that when you forgive people that hurt you and harm you, you're stupid. What does being stupid have to do with being mature? What does forgiveness and wisdom have to do with being clueless or unaware? Just because you choose to forgive people doesn't mean that you're stupid. If you're stupid, that has nothing to do with forgiveness. That has everything to do with you. And I'm tired of people blaming things. That's like when people blame things on substances. It's not the substances that make you feel some type of way. It's who you are. The substances, rather it's recreational or prescribed, it just intensifies it. Like, it just makes it more obvious who you are. Like, we cannot blame other people, if we're being honest, because a lot of times, even when we're naive and even when we're innocent and pure, nobody deserves to be, mistreated. But it's just like, the reality is, we have to hold ourselves to a certain standard. We have to hold ourselves to a certain, accountability. Like, we have to be honest, and that's what this is about. So if you don't like honesty, you don't like to be triggered, make sure you like this video, send it, and share it to somebody who is, because that's just the truth. Did you guys hear my stomach growl? Hopefully you didn't. Hopefully I kept talking, you guys can't hear it. But it's just like, in order for you to forgive yourself, you have to realize how certain things affect you. In order for you to forgive yourself and forget, or not forget, what has happened to you, you have to realize, like, okay, how does this make me feel? And what are you going to do moving forward when it comes to grieving? Everybody grieves differently. I'm not here to tell you guys what you have to do. You're here to take what resonates and leave the rest. So, for example, when you're grieving from being touched on inappropriately. One, that's something I feel like depending on how early it happened to you or how many times it happened to you, that's going to take your entire life. Like, there are some situations that are more severe than others, and it's not to compare and contrast because everyone goes through trauma. Some are major, some are not. But that certain situation, speaking from experience, that may take you a couple of years or your entire life unless you're not, like I said, vocalizing. Like, you have to communicate what has happened to you in order for you to forgive. And these videos are for the mature audience. So being mature is looking at the situation for what it is, realizing what you had control over, what you didn't have control over, realizing who you were, what the other people, places, and things did in that situation, and to accept it and to move forward. So in the future, as a child, you know now when it comes to your body what type of people you want to be intimate with. You know now certain boundaries that you have that make you feel uncomfortable. You know that now that when certain people communicate certain things, what are red flags. Like, the whole purpose, unfortunately, from the trauma is to transmute it from the negative situations and realize how can we view it in a positive situation. So in order for you to forgive yourself, number one, you just have to choose to. That's the first thing. So if you guys have questions, comments, concerns, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. Make sure you're commenting down below, turning your post notification bell, and subscribe. There's a lot that we have to talk about. And make sure you guys are DMing me. I responded, and this is the second video out of 9 that I'm currently working on. I told you guys to follow me on my social media platforms and let me know what topic you guys want to talk about. If I haven't addressed anything, let me know. And in this video, I challenge you, when you see this video, to sit with yourself, and I want you to apologize to yourself. Because in order for you to forgive yourself, you have to apologize to yourself. You have to apologize to that little girl or that little boy who was being abused, who was being taken advantage of, who didn't know no better. And when you apologize to them, I want you to write them a letter, and I want you to let them know, either from your future self, the things that you're no longer going to tolerate. So when you're apologizing to your past self, I want you to apologize for the things that you tolerated, or I want you, or both, I want you to apologize to yourself, and I want you to sit with yourself and allow yourself and list things that you're not going to allow moving forward. So an example is this, is you get a notebook, a pen and paper, and you write down, "Dear younger self of Ty, I apologize for allowing people to take advantage of you when you didn't deserve it." Like, you have to apologize to yourself in order for you to forgive other people. So like I said, DM me, let me know what you guys want to talk about. If you're interested in the service and the session, click the link in my description. Head to my website, hit tyguysummer.com. I'm trying to upload the rest of these videos, so it's a lot that we have to talk about. Trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. When you guys watch these videos, they're gonna be educational. I'm trying to make them entertaining, but most importantly, you have to make a decision. It's 2025. We're not gonna be holding grudges. We're not here to be upset. We're not here to be doubting ourselves. We're not here to be insecure. So if you have those things, you're gonna nip it in the butt, or you're gonna do what works for you, and the people that are gonna get it are gonna get it. Okay? I love you. Bye.